Yeah. Hi everyone, I'm Jeff Aplin, CEO of David Aplin Group. I'm here with Jeff Tetz, CEO of Results. Jeff, it's great to see you.
Yeah, great to see you.
Yeah, I've had the opportunity to do business with Results for many years, and have certainly benefited as a business owner from the experience of working with you in terms of planning to grow our company and driving better results. Business execution. It's kind of what you do.
Yeah.
What tell us about what Results does and what makes you different?
Yeah, well, I think everybody likes to think that they're different in the marketplace, and sometimes the way that we communicate that or deliver our services doesn't necessarily indicate that as clearly as it could. And so I think in the world of business coaches and business consultants, there are a lot of phenomenal people that you can hire. I think the difference with us, and I think the biggest problem that we have seen in the marketplace, is not the level of knowledge and desire that entrepreneurs have to grow a really successful business, but they don't know how to get started. They lack the ability to take all their knowledge and apply it. So the thing that we really focus on is the execution of your great ideas. How do you take a concept and make sure that not only the executive team is clear about what that strategy is or how you're going to win in the marketplace, but your entire organization is clear with those things. So there's a bit of a disciplined approach, lots of accountability that we bring to the table, but it's really about helping leadership teams create an environment where most of the things that we talk about actually have an action and some measurement and some accountability behind getting put into practice.
Yeah, for sure. And there is a real methodology and a framework that's kind of a repeatable one. It's tried and true, right? It's worked across a number of different industries and organizations, and I'm sure you've seen that with your clients, right?
Yeah, for sure. Well, and that's it's a good point, because everything we do has to go through a couple of different filters. So number one, is this tool or strategy or discipline or best practice simple? And then the second one, is it research-based? And if it doesn't meet both of those criteria, it won't get embedded in our framework. So those are a couple of essential pieces.
Yeah. From my experience, the amount of management thinking that goes on with the Results team is second to none. And I mean, I've got to say, some of the management thinkers that you've had on your show, Unleashed, like Tom Peters, and I mean, you go down the list, Danny Coyle, like some of the heavyweights of management, intellectuals. And you've interviewed them, right? So how's that been for you the past little while?
Well, it's been a real thrill, and I'm a fan of the people that we've had on our leadership podcast first and foremost. So I kind of feel like a kid getting to go into a sport locker room of your favorite child and meet some of your favorite childhood athletic heroes. And so there's some nerves and some apprehension there, because I'm a little bit starstruck to be talking to people like Amy Edmondson from Harvard, and Sheila Heen, who's been on the Oprah show talking about healthy conflict and giving and receiving feedback. And you mentioned Dan Coyle and Tom Peters and Michael Lombardi, that's won 3 Super Bowl rings and worked closely with Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots. So it's a little nerve-wracking, but I think I ground myself and balance myself, knowing that I'm there to distill the essence of some of their research and experiences into a format so that our audience and community of leaders can benefit from that. But it's been one of the silver linings of the pandemic, quite honestly, access to people like that, and then the ability for us to experiment with our business model and some of the offerings that we're putting out into the world.
Well, it's certainly been amazing to watch it happen, and good for you. And I got to ask you, Jeff. So, somebody's coming up with these ideas, but how do you reach out to these people? How do you make that happen? Like, how do you take an idea of, let's develop this series of management podcasts, and then pull it off? Like, how do you do that?
Yeah, well, the idea I cannot take credit for. It was a real team effort. And one of the things I'm really proud of our team early in the pandemic is we engaged everybody. And we did a good job at kind of like throwing all the Lego onto the kitchen table and just building something together. And eventually it starts to look like something. And this idea of doing a podcast was initially something that we were a little nervous of, just because there's so many. And everybody was springing into webinar mode as a default strategy when the pandemic first hit. But we quickly stood back and said, okay, what if we could do it a bit differently? And what if we could leverage some of the things that we were doing pre-pandemic? And what that meant for us is we're constantly doing in-person leadership seminars. So we actually had quite a few deep relationships with thought leaders, best-selling authors, and business researchers already. So that's where we started, was low-hanging fruit, saying, who do we know? And would they be prepared to come on a live webinar, which we then turned into a podcast? And thankfully for us, they're so gracious, they said yes. And as more people said yes, we started leveraging their networks. And then we started just swinging for the fences. So we reached out to people like Tom Peters, thinking that we would never hear back. And lo and behold, some of those people actually got back to us, and it was the right place at the right time, and they said yes. And then it just kind of snowballs from there. And so it just, again, starts from what's right in front of us and the relationships that we already had, and then it just expands from there.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And you're a humble guy, and I know you said we through that whole thing, but I know I've heard that you were pretty proactive on that. So is that not the case?
Well, I definitely played a role. I mean, I play a significant role in the execution of it, right? Being the host of it, but quite literally, our ideas, I can't think of a single idea that we've done in the pandemic that wasn't a combination of a bunch of people's ideas. And then even just the amount of resourcefulness that we had to have amongst our group to learn how to even do a webinar. One of our team members, Catherine, she basically single-handedly learned how to produce and direct a podcast, and this is while she was about 7 months pregnant. And like, if we put something out into the world that was of such low quality and low value, nobody would have paid attention to the second episode, right? So there's just so many hands that touch all of it. It's I don't even think it's being humble to spread around the credit for it. It's just the truth.
Yeah, well, it's a great reflection of you and your team. And let's talk about your team. Again, there's a lot of energy, a lot of really bright lights on your team. What gets your team fired up?
Well, it's making a difference, and this is not a new thing. I mean, any human being wants to ideally make a difference, but I think one of the meanings of life is to search for the place that you fit. Try to find your unique gifts and talents, and then if you can get paid for those unique talents and gifts, even better. And I think what our team all has in common, regardless of their roles, is they love to see the lights turn on for another person when they start to become a better, improved, enhanced version of themselves. So every day that we get out of bed, we are literally trying to just do something small that's going to help another leader in the business community become just a slightly better version of themselves. And so when we start to work with leaders that are not only ambitious, but they're humble like you as well, and they really are receptive to outside feedback, learning, and personal growth, those are the kinds of people that we really derive energy from to want to work with and add value and impress.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. And I know. So if you're a business owner out there, or an executive, and you're thinking, maybe time to make some changes with your company, or take it to the next level or whatnot, when should they reach out to you? How do they do that?
I think it's at the point where you recognize that while your business is quite good, you just know it could be better. You know there's inefficiencies. You know you have blind spots, but you might not know exactly what they are. And you'd like somebody to tell you the truth. I mean, this is the thing about leadership, is the more successful that we become in leadership, the more seniority we have, the more influence and power we gain. And as we gain more influence and power, we start to get surrounded by people that don't necessarily tell us the truth. And we'll tell you the truth, the things that you don't want to hear, but you actually want to hear because you want to grow, and you know that's the only way to do it. Yeah. So as soon as you know that your business could be better, should be better, and you want to find a smoother path to get there, that's when it's time to reach out to us for a phone call and a conversation.
Yeah. You got to be really authentic about it, right?
100%.
There you go. So yeah. Okay. Fantastic. And in terms of some thought leadership, you've just published a new business guide. Business should be more predictable. Talk about the two kinds of surprises that can upset a business.
Sure. So here's what we find in the marketplace is that every single business, I think pretty much no matter what industry that you're in, how large or small your organization might be, every single day encounters two kinds of problems and two kinds of surprises. And the first kind of surprise and problem is what we would call like an external problem, external threat. And the external threat is something like a government regulatory change. It's a competitive threat where somebody's moved into the marketplace or has now got a service that's competing with yours, a new up-and-comer, a new business model.
Landscape changes.
Well, yeah,
beyond
absolutely.
Their
I mean, a
control.
pandemic is something that we all had to face. And the reality with those kinds of external problems is it takes an awful lot of resourcefulness, creativity, and focus of senior leaders to figure out ways to solve those challenges, to remain relevant and overcome them. But there's this other sort of second set of surprises that a business faces, and these are internally focused. And these would be things like a poor culture, like infighting, politics, would be things like mishires, performance management type issues that might pop up, even figuring out what makes you different in the marketplace. The problem with this, however, is a lot of these internally focused challenges that leaders are dealing with should be more predictable. And if we don't take the time to actually come up with methodologies, processes, and a clear structure to solve those internal problems, not only are they time consuming, but it doesn't allow us to have the same amount of time and resourcefulness looking outwardly at the threats that literally could bankrupt your business. So that's kind of what we mean by that.
Yeah, fascinating. Okay, well, I look forward to learning more about that. And I mean, when you're surprised, and I would say people don't like surprises unless it's their birthday.
Yeah.
And even then, it depends. But if you're surprised, it means you probably have a blind spot, right?
Absolutely.
And you must see leaders. You work with leaders, all across Canada. You see them in their business in action. You must see them with blind spots.
Yeah.
What are some of the major blind spots?
Yeah, well, we all have them, and here is one of the most prevalent blind spots that we see in leadership right now. And it's what I call leadership incongruency. And there's all kinds of incongruency that shows up. And basically, when I'm talking to leaders about this, I ask the question of what sets the standard and the tone in an organization for our culture, for our people, the performance standards, everything, all the expectations that we're trying to set. What we say or what we do. And it's a pretty obvious answer, it's almost rhetorical. Now, unfortunately, we see such a chasm between what most leaders are saying and what they're doing. And it's a blind spot because very few leaders are doing this intentionally. And I'll just give you one example, is accountability. Every senior leader that I talk to is espousing the desire of creating a culture of accountability. And when I hear that, I'm always I'm excited and I'm glad that they feel that way, but then I'm also a little bit amused because the very next exercise I'll get them to do is to sort of take out a piece of paper and draw a line down the middle of it vertically. And in the left-hand column, I'll say, all right, well, make a list of all the employees that you're aware of that are underperforming or not quite meeting the standards and expectations that you have for them for whatever reason. And then on the right-hand column, make a list of all the intentional things that you're doing as a leadership team to deal with that mediocrity. Usually what happens is the list on the left, the people's names, is quite long. The list on the right is quite short. And the moment that happens, what you're actually communicating to your entire company is accountability doesn't really matter that much. It's something that we talk about, but it's not important enough that we're prepared to take action on it. And that's just one example, and there's countless others. And if we don't have that congruency between what we say and what we do, ultimately what suffers is not just our organizations, but it's our credibility, our leadership credibility index. And that is critical if people are going to believe in the message that we're trying to send.
Yeah, that's such a great perspective and such a critical issue there on people management accountability. And I know, your company, you take your own medicine, right? You apply a lot of the principles that you work with clients to help take your clients to the next level, but you apply them internally with your own. So talk about that. I mean, you have your one-page business plan, you have a playbook, you have core purpose. What does that look like?
We do, yeah. When you say that we take our own medicine kind of thing, jokingly, I'll often say that I think we're the Buckleys of the management consulting world, where it tastes awful, but it works. And I've been astounded through the years. I've been doing this now for 10 years, and like a lot of senior leaders, I spend a lot of my time looking in the mirror, looking at all of the things I should be doing differently, or things I should be better at, and things that our companies should do better, or faster, or more efficiently, or differently. And in and around all of that, we've had really good outcomes. And the reason for those outcomes is we very much do take a disciplined approach to our business. So our entire methodology and framework, we apply it. And even though we teach these things, I don't always love them. It's like going to the gym. I don't always love having strategy meetings. I don't always love having somebody pull me aside to say, you got some blind spots here, some behaviors that you might not be aware of. I don't love those things, but I do believe in the outcomes that they create. And I've seen firsthand, and I think what this has taught me about business in the decade I've been doing this is that every single business has problems, but the difference between the great ones and everybody else is that they actually want to do something about those problems. They want to hear about them. They don't want to turn a blind eye. They want to confront the brutal facts, and those ultimately are the reasons why any sustainable company that has had success through all kinds of turbulence and environments and change is that way, is they really do value a disciplined approach, a very meticulous, intentional approach to building their business.
Awesome. Hey, a couple other questions for you.
Sure.
Kind of different, totally different arena.
Yeah.
But you're definitely in the leadership spotlight, and you've got a lot of followers online and this sort of thing. So people want to know a little more about Jeff Tetz. So I got to ask. So just a couple of things. Like, what's a great Saturday for you?
So I have a Saturday routine where, and maybe this, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but whether it's 40 below or 25 above, every Saturday morning if I'm in town, I live in Edmonton, you'll find me running stairs in the river valley and then going for a brunch, and then I pull up my daytime. I usually go for brunch alone, and I plan out my entire week over this brunch. I love spending time just thinking about my week and my past week's accomplishments on a Saturday. So it's not so urgent if I waited till a Sunday, but it's usually being outdoors and some physical activity, and then in the summer months, and especially, it's getting to the mountains and being on a rugged trail on the top of a mountain is my idea of heaven.
Fantastic. So those pictures of you at the top of the stairs, those aren't Photoshopped. Those for real.
Those are for real. Yeah.
It's 40 below.
There's no evidence that I actually ran the stairs, but at least I was there to take a picture of them, right?
And then one of your favorite refreshments.
Oh, so I love a good glass of scotch and a good craft beer.
There you go.
Yeah, I've been,
Nice.
I'm not affiliated with them in any way, but I've been loving the Snake Lake Brewery out of Sylvan Lake. They make some IPAs that are just some of the best IPAs I've tasted. So if a good friend, good conversation, and an IPA from an Alberta craft brewery is my idea of a great way to spend some time.
I am with you there, brother. The craft brewery scene in Alberta is phenomenal.
Yeah,
really, all
really
across
nice.
Canada it is, but certainly tons of local fantastic breweries in Alberta. Jeff Tetz, CEO of Results, thank you very much for your time, and it's been a pleasure to chat with you today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jeff. Great to spend time with you.
Yeah.